And good Tuesday afternoon. It is October 4th, just 2 weeks away from voting starting, early voting starting. And tagging a teammate in on this one, Mr. Frank Prosnitz joins me. How are you?
I'm pretty good, Ryan. How are you doing?
Good, Frank. We have started. October is interview time for us here at WhatsUpNewp, and we are chatting with as many candidates as possible this month. Early voting starts October 19th, 2 weeks from tomorrow. And we're bringing the candidates to people so they can get to know them. I've said this a couple times, to get to know the candidates. But what's also fun is you get to know people in your community. Hopefully you get to know a lot about all of these people.
It's an important time. Our job is basically to provide our listeners, our viewers, our readers with the kind of information that makes them smart voters come election day.
That's it. And who are we talking to there today, Frank?
Well, Zachary Hurwitz. Zachary Hurwitz is, if he becomes governor, let's see, is our drinking age 18 or is it 21? I don't know if he'd be able to drink in Rhode Island. But Zachary Hurwitz would be the youngest governor we ever had at the age of 18. On his way, as I understand it, you were driving down Route 95, and you got to Route 37, and suddenly dawned on you that as you're on your way to URI, that you ought to run for governor. And so he became a student at URI at the same time he announced for governor, pretty much. But Zachary is with us this morning or this afternoon. Some real important things, I think, with Zachary. 18 years old, made the decision to run for governor when most 18-year-olds are trying to figure out whether or not they should vote. And so I think that's pretty incredible. So I want to learn a little bit about Zachary, what he wants to do, what happens if he happens to become governor of Rhode Island.
So, Frank, Ryan, thank you guys so much for having me right now. And I just want to say it truly is a pleasure. And you're not wrong. I actually had the idea to run for governor before I could even drive. It was in the height of COVID. And I saw how chaotic everything was, how much divisiveness there was in our schools, our governments, our family. And at the end of the day, I decided that we have to have a change. So that's why I'm running, to hopefully be the moderate, be the bridge that can help bring people together rather than tear them apart, because we've had too much of that lately.
So I want to really comfort you, because if you happen to win the governorship, you'd have a driver. You don't need a license.
Oh, gosh, that's great. Oh, my. That helps me a lot.
And for people that don't know how it works, you had to declare your candidacy back in June, and then you had to get a whole bunch of signatures. So it's not like the Secretary of State or Board of Elections just threw your name on there. Talk to us about the process.
Well, yeah, I mean, it aligned really well with my birthday, because I turned 18 in April, so just before the cusp. And actually, I collected majority of the signatures myself. I was walking the beach for about a week and a half, 7 hours a day, and I spoke to, I think, over 2,000 people, and I got about 850 signatures by myself. And that just was truly it was a difficult experience, but it definitely taught me that I was in the big leagues, that what happened here, it took tough work. I mean, I think, to be honest, I might be the only one that actually collected signatures and collected that much signatures in comparison to McKee and Kalus. But we'll see at the end of the day. But it just truly was a eye-opening experience, to say the least.
Yeah, so people are aware, Zachary is running as an independent, so he's affiliated with no party. And I know that one of the things that you just mentioned is your concern about the divisiveness we have out there, and how you would hope to be able to bring people together.
Yes, I mean, I feel like if majority of people actually take the time to have meaningful conversations rather than just yelling at each other at the top of their lungs, whether that be in government, at school committee meetings, or anything like that, we be actually able to agree on some points and move forward in the conversation. Because truly compromising and having agreements along party lines is just simply one of the ways that we can actually get stuff done in government.
Zachary, tell us a little bit about your background. You were born in Rhode Island?
I was actually born in Norwalk, Connecticut. I ended up moving to Rhode Island when I was around 8 years old, and then we moved down to Texas for about 3.5 years. That gave me a lot of experience about how divisive the world really is, rather than just living in a small bubble. And after about 3 years, we moved back up to Rhode Island, and I've been here ever since. I've spent pretty much half my life here. I mean, and I have to say, far longer than my Republican opponent, Ashley Kalus.
Well, she's been here at least 12 months.
Yes.
She moved to Rhode Island last year. She registered to vote in January. So
Wow. Okay.
she actually registered to vote before you did.
Huh.
But then again, you weren't of age yet. Have you always been interested in politics, or is this something that just kind of grew, or is this something that came out of the pandemic?
Well, out of the pandemic is when I decided that I wanted to run for governor, but I've always been very active in my community. For my parents have always encouraged me to volunteer at organizations, whether that be for Save the Bay, the Rhode Island Blood Center, Habitat for Humanity, any private charities that they've heavily encouraged for me to volunteer and spend my time. It just gave me better acknowledgement about how the state works and who actually needs help in our state.
You went to high school where?
I actually went to high school at North Kingstown. And I spent sophomore to senior year, I was there. And now, like you said, I'm at University of Rhode Island. I'm studying international studies and diplomacy, as well as French.
And background in your family involved in politics or public service?
See, while we may not have most recent family who's in politics, majority of my inspiration actually comes from my grandfather. He was a World War II veteran. He stormed the beaches of Normandy, and after was French American liaison when it came to constructing the United States, the United Nations. Sorry about that.
How are you campaigning? You knocking on doors? You going to forums? You, I know you don't have the finances to throw the ads up that your opponents are doing, but how are you getting out there to the public?
Well, first off, just by doing this, by just talking to various news outlets and news organizations, is a great way for me to actually get my voice out there. I was on the front page of the Providence Journal this summer, just because it makes headlines. The youngest candidate for governor. It makes headlines, and I don't have to spend a cent, which helps a lot because I don't have what the other candidates have. I don't have $2.7 million at my disposal. So being able to have all that free advertisement is just it's wonderful.
Yeah, and that 2.7 million is what Ashley Kalus loaned her own campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So nice to be in that position, I guess. What if you were to list your three priorities?
Mm-hmm.
What would they be?
Well, one of the first things I want to tackle is food insecurity. As of right now, a lot of Rhode Islanders are actually food insecure. I believe it's around 12% as of, I think, 2016. It actually went higher because of the pandemic. I believe that in such a beautiful state, in such a developed state, no parent should lay awake at night wondering how they're going to feed their child, and no student going to school hungry on an empty stomach. I hope that in my campaign has let out position statements regarding the economy, regarding affordable housing, and even up to reproductive rights and gun control.
And your other priorities, a couple of others?
Yeah, of course. Affordable housing is one of them. My main goals, whether that be for affordable housing for younger people in this generation, younger people in Rhode Island, senior citizens. At the end of the day, I believe that we have to invest more in affordable housing as a whole, and not say spend $60 million on a Pawtucket stadium, as we should actually have a priority to help Rhode Islanders in the low income housing. I believe that $36 million of that $60 million that is going to the Pawtucket Stadium would have been actually going toward low income housing. So I just think that we should take priority first, which with helping the Rhode Islanders who actually need it. And
if you were to choose a third priority?
Yeah, of course. Well, one of my main things is reproductive rights. As of right now, my goal is to protect women's right and access to safe abortion as of right, and also increase education about contraception, as well as easier access to it, especially in lower income areas.
So one of the things that we see happening in our schools, and I run across some particularly local people in some communities like Westerly and South Kingstown who are who want to ban books that don't want to talk about these subjects or don't want their kids to talk to about these subjects in school. What do you say to them?
Well, first off, I mean, we're living in the 21st century. We're possibly the most progressive we've ever been. There's no need to ban books at the moment. First off, the internet is here, right? It's already been here for decades. But we're not in the 1940s anymore where we're trying to like shelter it. We don't, at the end of the day, it's just, I don't think that needs to be brought up in conversation about banning books or anything like that. Just people have the right to share as much information as they could possibly want. And I'm in support. I don't believe that we should be banning books.
I want to turn to and I want to come back to affordable housing. For me, that's I see it as a gateway to dealing with a lot of issues. Certainly, dealing with homelessness, dealing with seniors, dealing with our economy.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to turn to the economy, and I wanted to ask you what your perception is of the Rhode Island economy, what our niche may be in this economy, and how can we make things better.
Well, at the end of the day, I truly believe that we are facing a possible recession. We're facing rising inflation, and we should do everything possible to hopefully combat that. Um, I just simply believe that we're not doing enough. Governor McKee recently said that he's implementing $250 per child. While I support that, it's not long term. That won't be able to help us in the long run when we're facing recession that'll last for maybe 2 or 3 years. So at the end of the day, maybe reinvesting more into small businesses. 90% of businesses in Rhode Island are small businesses owned by simple mom and pop shops. So by reinvesting more into those, hopefully be able to help the economy and Rhode Islanders everywhere.
I spent 10 years as editor of the Business News, and some of the complaints I got from a lot of our readers was the cumbersome regulatory system in Rhode Island, and was the fact that if you were a particular vendor, a carpenter, a plumber, or whatever, and you had to register in multiple towns rather than just having one central registry, as well as the regulations from town to town being different. Do you think we should, and do you think there is a way for us to standardize all of that?
Yeah, I mean, first off, we've all heard the jokes about government bureaucracy and red tape and just a chaotic mess of regulation. I truly believe that we should standardize it across the state, simply put, because it's more efficient and it helps save time, and time is money. So at the end of the day, I fully agree with you when it comes to being need to be regulated.
Many people turn to tourism as one of our top industries in Rhode Island, and there are a lot of people also who are concerned about that, because what tourism does, it brings in a number of low-paying jobs and not as proportionate a number of higher-paying jobs. Should we be developing, or do we have another niche that can provide employment for the kids going to school? And I'll give you an example. Len Ladero, the economist at the University of Rhode Island, one of the economists at the University of Rhode Island, and is a friend, and I'll often ask him. He'll tell me that his students will turn to him when they're going to graduate, and he'll ask them, "Are you going to look for employment in Rhode Island?" And they turn and say, "We're going elsewhere because it pays higher, better benefits, and more opportunity." How do we fix that?
Well, one of the things that we talked about previously on the radio podcast was the tech industry. As of right now, we have the opportunity for Rhode Island to become a big tech state. So hopefully, with tax incentives for tech companies, we'll be able to bring them into Rhode Island, so that hopefully, with the companies that come here that are invited here because we seem welcoming, we'll be able to bring in the jobs, the high-paying jobs, rather than say the low-wage jobs that come with tourism.
So oftentimes when tax incentives are used as a way of bringing in businesses, those tax incentives expire at some point or another, and then these companies go out shopping again. Is there a way that we can retain them? are tax incentives the right way to go about attracting companies?
See, I personally, I would have to look deeper into that. As of right now, I definitely, if elected, I would definitely speak to actual financial professionals, people who know more than I do in that field. So we could keep the tech companies here because at the end of the day, we need these industries. We need to help the Rhode Island economy, and this is just one of the ways that hopefully we'll be able to do it.
So Len suggests that one of the problems we have within state government is we often go out and hire consultants to come up with these reports on various projects. And oftentimes those consultants go out actually with a mission because somebody hires them with a goal in mind. He thinks we ought to do in-house due diligence by bringing in the some economists from throughout the state and creating that kind of a department within state government that does its own due diligence and is not beholden to any individual idea, maybe, and is not going to cost the state a fortune every time we go out to get some kind of a report on a particular proposed project.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully we'll be able to solve that in time, and at the end of the day, help Rhode Islanders who actually need it, especially when it comes toward us spending their tax dollars.
So, so in other words, you got to learn more about that from and how that may or may not work. How do you think you're doing in the election? And how are you balancing being a college student and being a gubernatorial candidate?
I mean, it's a good question. I mean, it's definitely been an interesting and a wild ride, frankly. But the good news is I've managed to balance the campaign. I've managed to balance being a full-time student as well as doing ROTC, as well as flight lessons. So it's been a wild ride. But during in high school, I managed 3 small businesses, all while being a full-time student there. So it definitely gave me the knowledge I need to do this in college.
What are some of the questions that you get from younger audiences, your peers, and what are some of the questions you get from older audiences that and how do they receive an 18-year-old gubernatorial candidate?
Well, while I've received like overwhelming support for both older generations and younger generations, simply put, a lot of older generations don't see me as a legitimate candidate. They don't believe that I have enough political experience to run, enough age experience. But at the end of the day, I tell them, like I tell everyone else who simply just who thinks it's going to be in vain. I tell them that if you take away age, if you just look at my policies on my website and my position statements, that you would actually agree with it more than disagree. So that's my whole goal, is to hopefully turn some minds over, and especially in the older generation, to show that people in the younger generation can in fact get into politics, that we can stay in politics, and that we can change the state and our country for the better. And for younger people, usually the support is overwhelming. I hope that I have inspired a lot of people in my generation to get into politics more, to actually be more active in their community. I recently spoke at EWG High School, and that actually helped me, and hopefully I was able to inspire that class that they can be in politics too.
We'll ignore that noise in the background.
That's all right.
It's of course it's got to be a bogus call, which we have to deal with at one point or another. Have you looked at the state budget? Do you understand the state budget? You have any thoughts about where we're at? And as a footnote to that, a lot of what's being done, a lot of the programs that are out there are based on this influx of federal funds that will go away.
Yeah, well, that's my whole goal about talking to financial advisors and financial professionals, because as of right now, the state debt is, I think, around $10 billion, and it's increasing every year. It was $9 billion in 2019. And while the state budget's increasing, and it's going to be detrimental to our state in the long run. So like I said before, speaking to professionals, making sure that we're getting the right information, the correct information, because at the end of the day, a politician's a politician, and they don't know everything. And I'll be the first to admit that I don't know everything. which is why I would surround myself with a team of seasoned advisors, whether that be Democrat, Republican, or independent. Really able to surround myself with seasoned advisors so that we can actually get stuff done in Rhode Island.
You're running as an independent.
Yes, I am.
If elected, when you get in office, would you see yourself more aligned with one of the political parties?
No, actually, I truly believe that I'm more on the moderate side. I've always, in my most of my life, I've tried to always bring people together rather than tear them apart, and I'm going to try to do the same thing for the government if elected, because at the end of the day, we're all Rhode Islanders. We all care about improving the state in any way we can. We just go about it by different means. So that's my whole goal, is to put people above parties. So I wouldn't align myself with any party at all, because I truly believe that they do more harm than good when it comes to helping our state.
Do you think that may put you at a disadvantage when trying to negotiate for certain things within with the legislature?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, sure, we might have like difficulties and not a lot of support, but I mean, an independent has won before. Lincoln Chafee won as an independent, and Bob.
But that was after being aligned
That's true.
pretty strongly with a political party.
That's true. But if you even look at Bob Healy, who's the moderate party, he won majority of support in Rhode Island. He won 22% while also running with $20, $30 in his pocket. So I truly believe that it is possible that at the end of the day, we'll be able to hopefully help Rhode Island and bridge the gap, because there's an insane gap that's been happening, especially in
the divide you talk about is just not a Rhode Island divide.
It's not.
The divide you talk about is one that is national, even global for that matter. That seems, while there can be efforts made locally, it seems clearly that any effort to try and bridge a divide has to be something that's more universal than just on a small state basis.
Oh yeah, of course. But at the end of the day, we can all do our part. There's no point in bickering and meandering while our state is falling into chaos. But because at the end of the day, all we have to, we can all do our small part in making the world a better place. That's why I always, like I said, I spoke at EWG high school, and I spoke to them about volunteering at certain programs, at certain organizations around Rhode Island, just doing just doing your simple part to help Rhode Island, just even if it's small, can do great things. And that's what I hope to do as governor.
Ashley Kalus calls herself the education governor. She's put first and foremost school choice as her platform. Where are you relative to education? What do we have to do to improve it? And where are you with school choice?
Well, as of right now, I truly believe that education in Rhode Island, especially public school education, K through 12, needs to be improved upon. We need, in my opinion, better pay for teachers when it comes to it, and also better mental health counseling for teachers as well as students. Because simply put, like I said before, I went to North Kingstown High School, and sadly, a teacher passed away there, and they just caused it caused a lot of mental turmoil for a lot of teachers, and a lot of them believe that they didn't get the right amount of support from the administration. So I'd hopefully work with all the public schools in Rhode Island, that I'd be able to provide them with adequate mental health support and mental health counseling so that they can teach to the best of their abilities, and students can learn to the best of their abilities as well. And when it comes to school choice, I'll have to look deeper into that, because it truly is a very controversial issue, especially in Rhode Island. But we'll definitely see how we interact with it, and hopefully release a position statement farther along the lines.
So when I read national publications and so forth about the about teachers leaving, the up to 40 some odd % of teachers expected to leave the profession, one of the key things is in fact what's happening in our schools, the disrespect shown from teachers, not necessarily from the administration, but from the public in general. The things like the issues raised in some school systems here in Rhode Island, for sure, of a racial divide, that the claims that critical race theory is being taught in the schools when Every school system that I've heard from says they're not doing it. Where there are people looking to ban books. There are people looking to have more non-professional involvement in the classroom, which then puts some professionals in ill at ease. Do you see that, and how or is there a way to be able to change that?
Yeah, I mean, well, first and foremost, teachers don't believe that they're being heard correctly. They don't believe that they're getting the right amount of support from whether that be the government or or their administration. Which is, I go back to mental health. It's not you can't really support yourself mentally if you're being yelled at 24/7. So at the end of the day, I just want to say that I support teachers. I hear them and they're them stating that they need help, because they do need help, because a lot of them are leaving the profession. And at the end of the day, teachers are practically the backbone of our state. They teach the future generation. We have to put our trust in them so that they'll be able to teach our students and the kids of Rhode Island to the best of their abilities.
We've got a few minutes left. I do have some questions relative to campaign finance, to term limits, and to people who are delinquent in providing their reports to the State Board of Elections. But let me start with term limits. We have term limits for the general offices. Some communities have it on the ballot. Do you think we ought to have term limits for our state legislators?
I actually don't know much, but I do have to look farther into that. But at the end of the day, we don't want to have majority of state legislators continuing to age as they age into their 70s, into their 80s. I do agree with you when it comes to term limits, especially for state legislators, simply put, because it allows for more new people to come in, new people with other ideas, so that at the end of the day, we can change Rhode Island, and we're able to change with the times, essentially.
Yeah. Just to be clear, I didn't state my position on term limits.
Yeah, of course.
Just raise the question. Yeah. And it's there are John Marion, who from Common Cause, has an interesting perspective, and someone you might want to talk to. Campaign finance reform. Do you think we need it?
I truly depends on what you mean by campaign finance reform. But I do believe that the state and the government have safeguards in place, that they do stuff well when it comes to it. But I'll have to look deeper because it really depends on the situation overall.
We have a system in our state where when you are a candidate, you need to file quarterly reports with the State Board of Elections on your campaign finances. Mm-hmm. Most people comply, but some don't. And if you look at the aging report for the Board of Elections, that now is creeping up on $5 million or more that's owed by politicians who have failed to comply with the Board of Elections filing, either by filing late and then fines that follow, or by not filing at all. And we don't have a law, however, that prevents somebody who's on that aging list from running for office. Gina Raimondo, when she was in office, I tried to get a law through that was not accepted, or was not. I don't even think it saw the floor of the legislature. And so the Board of Elections will tell you that they're close to toothless when it comes to being able to enforce that. They'll go to the courts. The judges will knock down the fines, and the best way they say to be able to deal with this is through public exposure of this. I wonder about your take on whether or not we ought to have legislation that would prevent somebody from running for office if, in fact, they were delinquent on filing their reports. And perhaps there's a dollar level on what the fines are, but some of them get out of hand to the several $1,000s.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I agree that reforms need to be in place. I mean, I had to fill out the quarterly reports like anyone else, and I truly believe, and I'm handling, meager dollars when it comes to other politicians. So I believe when you're handling millions, when you're handling thousands of dollars, that you definitely need to put in reform so that we actually know how much money you're handling, how much money is being transacted. Especially when it comes to leading our country, leading our state, and as a whole.
let me just throw this out to you a little bit. We're pretty much out of time, but I wanted to see if there's anything that you wanted to add that you felt was really important. Give me your 2-minute elevator speech to someone who you want to support you for governor.
Yeah, well, I have to say, to everyone who may be, on the fence or thinking, oh, an 18-year-old can't possibly run for governor. He's not a politician. He has no political experience. I mean, I'm using that to my advantage. I am not a career politician. I don't have I'm not a millionaire. I don't care about the power that comes with the governorship. I don't care about the wealth. I just care about helping the Rhode Island people. That's why I'm running, because I truly love the state. It's absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely amazing. I love living here, and I hope to make it I hope to make it just an even greater place to live for every single Rhode Islander. I really hope that I'm putting people above party when it comes to it. I'm putting policy above party just so we can actually help Rhode Islanders.
So I have just one last question, Zachary, and that's it's quite something for an 18-year-old to jump into politics, school committee, council, state legislature. But it's something else when an 18-year-old wants to jump right into the top spot and become the governor. Why not get your feet wet in a lesser office and then work your way up to running for governor?
Well, yeah, I mean, while those positions, student council or school committee member, well, those are important. They just don't generate as much noise. That's why I'm here, to make a big splash, go big or go home. And at the end of the day, to hopefully, by doing this, inspire some people in my generation to get into politics and be more active in their community, especially in Rhode Island.
Zachary, I want to thank you. Thank you much. I think, at the very least, it's great to see an 18-year-old who's articulate and is out there and campaigning, and hopefully, indeed, will inspire a lot of people in your generation to get out and vote and to think about getting involved, not only in elected office, but if you look through every city and town, they have a lot of important boards that are unfilled, and it's a great place for young people to get in, get their feet wet, and can make a real difference on places like planning board and zoning boards and things like that. But terrific to watch your campaign, and good luck. And who knows, in 5 weeks it may be Governor Hurwitz.
I hope so. I mean, we shall see. Ryan, Frank, thank you guys so much for letting me on here.
One last important question. What beach did you collect the signatures at? People have their favorites, so be careful with this answer.
Listen, I live in Narragansett. I went straight to the Bay campus. I went straight to Narragansett Beach. And I mean, that's just my personal preference. I don't think you can beat it.
And how many Dells did you consume during the summer?
Oh my, too much to say the least. I probably helped their business by myself. Oh my gosh, I love them.
Yeah. All right. Well, words spoken to Rhode Island airs right there. So. All right, Zachary. Well, thank you for your time. And one last thing, a website. You mentioned a website. What's your website?
Yeah. Well, you can visit me on social media, Zach4Gov, or go to my website, Zach4Gov. That's ZACH, the number 4, gov.com. I mean, I hope to see everyone there.
And I just throw this in. I visited the website. He talks about a lot of the issues. It's well worth going to. I really appreciate candidates who use that website to be able to express how they feel about certain issues and identify things that need to be addressed. So well worth the visit.
Well, thank you so much, Frank. I appreciate it.
All righty, Zach. Thanks so much.
All right. You guys have a great day. Thanks for having me.
You too. Take care.
And that is Zachary Hurwitz, who is one of 5 candidates running for governor. He sits right in the middle at third spot. They're on the ballot coming up in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he does. And there's a libertarian and I think another independent. So see how well they do in this election. And none of them have the money that the major party candidates have. So.
And it's in the story. Of course, if anybody wants to watch this interview, share with it, watch it again. If they missed any portion of it, you can find it on WhatsUpNewp.com. It's in the story on there. But we've invited all candidates running for this seat to join us. As you've probably seen We've had some success with some, and we haven't had success with others. If you know any of these candidates, if you want to hear from a particular candidate that you have not seen or that is not already on our schedule, reach out to the candidate and say, hey, how come you're not sitting down with What's Up New? Because we've reached out.
In terms of the general offices and the congressional races, we've heard from a lot of them. We have a number of them scheduled. So it's a great way to get to know people, particularly those offices that we might not see as visible on TV, those people are responding, and it's and you'll be surprised at the quality of some of these candidates. We have a lot of good people who are running, who are articulate, who understand the issues, and that's what it's about, talking about the issues.
That's it, Mr. Prosnitz. Well, thank you for bringing this one to us, and stay tuned to whatsupnoop.com for our schedule, and sign up for our newsletter, and we'll let you know of what's coming up. Lots of races, and we're hoping that you learn a thing or two along the way.
Indeed. Thank you, Ryan.
All right. Oh, we didn't do it yet. The hat of the day is what?
Oh, this is the Lehigh Iron Pigs. Iron Pigs, I think they are. Yeah.
For those first time tuning in, Frank collects hats, and most of the time I don't know what they are. So
yeah. And a lot of times I don't either.
Yeah. So there it is. All right. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Mr. Prosnitz. On behalf of all of us here at What's Up Noop, I want to thank Zachary for taking the time to join us today, and I want to thank you for watching. If you missed this interview, want to watch it again, share it, watch any other candidate interviews, whatsupnoop.com. Thanks for watching.